What's up, everybody? Doug here, and we are starting out with episode 2 of the retro review. Today, we're gonna go through and we're gonna talk about. Let's see, we've got the Silver Surfer game on the NES. We've got Spider-Man: Return of the Sinister Six. We have the crap. What's the other one? Hold on. I got this. The Wolverine game, and then we've also got Captain America and the Avengers. And before we get into that, though, we're gonna I'm just gonna go ahead and say now that there is gonna be like a little break in this episode. There's gonna be a break because I gotta stop and do a little quick errand. Uh, Anything else? Okay. So there's gonna be after this week's episode of the retro review. There's going to be a change in how I do them because I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of NES games do not hold up well, and I kind of just found myself. I'm already finding myself, having really, to really, what's the word I'm looking for? To really force myself to play them right now because Tears of the Kingdom is out, and I'm wanting to play that with all my spare time. So I was trying to think of a way to make it better for me. So what I decided to do is, after this week's episode, it's going to be a random approach where I am going to put some numbers into a random number generator, and I am just going to, basically pick games at random. And how that's going to work is if it's, older games, like I'm going to say probably if they are anything before the Nintendo 64 era, I'm probably going to do it three games, multiple games in an episode. But once the games get kind of bigger, and when you get to like your N64 games, your GameCube games, stuff like that, that's when the episodes are going to start to be featuring one game a week. So next week. Next week, the next time I do a retro review, I think the games in that one's going to be Zelda 2. It's going to be lightning behind me. Oh, that was cool. Uh, you know, okay, so yeah, Zelda 2 is going to be one of the games. The Friday the 13th NES game, that's going to be another one. Ooh, we got some rain. There's going to be one of the King Kong games that was on the GBA. And then, oh, goodness. Hold on. I could probably pull this up real quick because it was in my Discord chat. Don't worry. I'm being completely safe right now. Friday the 13th, King Kong, Ultimate Exodus, which is another NES game that, spoiler alert, again, a lot of NES games either don't hold up well or they're just not good to begin with. I played Ultimate Exodus, and spoiler alert, I had no idea what I did. I played it for about 30 minutes, and I just got killed a lot. That's the discussion we're on time. And then the other game is going to be Shadowrun on the Genesis. So that's going to be the next, and that's what I'm going to do. But like, if I go to pick, like if I put the stuff in the number generator, and like a PlayStation 2 game comes up, I'm probably going to just do that one game for a retro review. Unless it's a really short game. But if it's something like I'm in the PlayStation 2 era or the GameCube era, and, it's a game like I don't know what, like a game like Twilight Princess, or if it's a game like Final Fantasy X. Those games are going to take up an episode, all in the and the ranking system is still going to be in there. Like I've been ranking the NES, like I ranked the NES games from the last episode, and I'm going to keep doing it that way, where I am going to rank them like so. If I've got three NES games and two GBA games, I'm gonna rank them the NES games by themselves and the GBA games by themselves. If that makes any sense. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to talk about that for. I don't think there is. Now, before we get into the games we've got to talk about in this week's episode, I'm just gonna go ahead and say right off the bat, I did not remember the ranking I gave for those games. I remember the ranking I thought I gave them. So I put them into that, looking back at the games, I basically ranked them on a spreadsheet. So if this is the ranking I did in those episodes, great. But if not, the ranking for the original games were as follows. I printed out the sheet on this one, so I just gotta remember. where I put it in the car. Again, being totally safe. I am in complete control of the car. You know, I'm about to be at a red light. So, I mean, we're going really slow. So just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Gotta find the ranking. Okay, that's not it. Well, isn't that something? Uh, hmm. I could have swore. I could have swore I ranked these. Well, isn't this something? I am very displeased with myself. Let's see if I put it in this one. Let's see if I put it in the spreadsheet. Ah, aha! I got it. Uh, ooh, okay. So I did something there. This is not it, Mr. Doug. I am just not having. I'm not having a good time with this. Let's see if I can do that. Okay. 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 So I just don't have these rankings for some reason. I don't know where I put them, if I'm being honest. Maybe I saved them under retro review. I bet that's what it is. I should probably cut this, but I'm not going to because that sounds stupid. Here we go. I got it. I got it. I got it. Okay. So the ranking for the original games that I did in the last episode that I'm going to stick with today is Castlevania 2 at the bottom, then Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong 3, and then we've got Castlevania 1 at the top. And I didn't talk about Castlevania. Okay. I got this now. Castlevania 2, Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong 3, and then Castlevania 1. That is the rankings. So I'm going to be adding to that list. And I actually forgot that I also played Alien 3. So we're gonna talk about that one today too. So we're gonna start things off with mm, we are gonna start things with Captain America. We'll start things off with Captain America, and then we're going to go to Spider Man. We're going to go to Wolverine, and then we're going to end things off with Silver Surfer. And I'm just going to go ahead and nix what I just said. I'm not going to talk about Alien 3 today because I don't. That is one of those games where I played it, but I don't feel like I played it enough to give it an actual ranking. And there are going to be games like that on this list, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, Alien 3 was actually kind of a fun game. So it's not just a thing where I'm not playing it because, oh God, this is just not fun. I'm not enjoying myself. It's just something where I need to play more of it before I give it an actual ranking. So we're going to start things off with Captain America and the Avengers. This game is basically. I'm going to start thinking. This game isn't bad, right? I mean, there are worse, there are better. But basically, I didn't get that far because it's a pretty repetitive game. It's just a side scroller where you start off and playing as Captain America, and you get through a few stages, and then you have to swap over to Hawkeye, right? And you're basically playing most of the same levels. You're doing the same thing over and over again. There's nothing too exciting here, you know. Excuse me. It is basically your paint by numbers. There's a lot of traffic going that way. Side scroller with not a whole lot going on, and it's just I don't think this is a game that you really need to experience. But again, like I just said, at the same time, it's not a bad game. You know what I mean? It's it's just okay. I couldn't even tell you the story for this game because I mean, if I'm being honest, I want to say that this is one of those games where you kind of started off and I'm pretty sure almost immediately you're just into the gameplay. It was probably one of those games because I don't know if you're like me and you played games back then. A lot of those older games were the story was in the game, the instruction book. So yeah, so that's pretty much all you're gonna get on that one. We're gonna go ahead and take that break. I'll tell you back real quick. I've got my first little errand here, so we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. And you know what? I don't think that was the right. I don't think that was the right the right review. not right review. I don't know what I'm saying right now. I'm talking about the right spreadsheet. I have a lot of these spreadsheets. I suck. I know that. Let's see. I'm still in the parking lot of the bank, so it's okay. Let's see. Retro. No. Solo maybe. Podcast. You know what? We're just gonna go with that ranking. We're just gonna go with it. We're just gonna go with it. I'm not gonna worry about it anymore. Okay. So Captain America and the Avengers. I don't, like I said, I don't think it's a bad game. I just think they could have done a lot more with it, and I think that it, I don't know what I'm saying. I think they just could have did a lot more with it, but I don't think it's a bad game. So I'm gonna put Captain America and the Avengers. You know what? I'm gonna put Castlevania 2 higher. I know. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put Castlevania 2 above Donkey Kong 3 because I could see myself going back to Castlevania 2. I don't see myself ever going back to the Donkey Kong game. So the ranking is gonna be number 5 is Donkey Kong Jr., number 4 Donkey Kong, number 3 Donkey Kong 3. Number 2, Castlevania 2, number 1, Castlevania. And I'm going to put Captain America and the Avengers underneath Donkey Kong. No, I'm going to put it above Donkey Kong 3. So right now that ranking is going to be Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong 3, Captain America and the Avengers, and then we've got Castlevania 2 and then Castlevania 1. Uh, the next game on the list is we're going to do Spider Man and the Return of the Sinister Six. This game sucks. Okay, this game sucks. And Wolverine sucks too, by the way. We're going to talk about why. But okay, so you know, a Spider-Man game with Sinister Six should be a Sinister Six. But Sinister Six should be a slam dunk, right? It's not. It's terrible. It it opens up and Spider-Man does not look like Spider-Man should. He looks very like he's a very blobby looking character, which again I know, NES, NES. What's the system like the system of the NES? Couldn't wasn't cutting edge by any measure of graphics, but this game just does not. I did not feel like I was making an officially licensed Spider-Man game. I felt like I was playing, some fan-made crap when I play this game. And it's not just the visuals that aren't that great. It's also the gameplay. I felt like anything I did that was a positive thing in this game was an accident because you don't have your thing Spider-Man game. You got punches, you got kicks, and you could swing your web. I felt like every single time that I used my web that it was an accident, that I did not mean to do it because I was trying to figure out how to shoot my webs, and every time I thought that I had found out the button configuration on how to do that, uh every time like I would think I'd finally figured it out, and then I'll try to do it again and it didn't work. And that could be down to the version of the game I had was bad or something like that, but I don't think so. I think that this is just not a great game. And I actually had a weird bug when I first started the game where my Spider-Man just would not move. So I would have to reset the game a few times, and then finally, when I would start, not just the web problems, but also your main attack is like a jump kick, which is the dumbest gameplay mechanic I've ever seen. Uh, I just did not feel like this was a good Spider-Man game. Period. I felt like it was just a bad game in general, and I would honestly put this game at the very bottom because, again, like I said, I can see myself playing the Donkey Kong games again. Well, I don't think I'll ever replay the Donkey Kong games, but I can see myself playing any one of these games before I touch Spider-Man and the Return of the Sinister Six. The Spider-Man and the Return of the Sinister Six. You got to really slow that one down. Uh, I just don't think I'll ever think about this game again. So just goodbye. Wolverine is again. This game sucks too, but it is better because when I'm, fighting as when you're going through the fighting motions of, you still feel like you're Wolverine because you got your claws and you're ching and you're killing people. But the jumping, the platforming just feels really weird, and it feels like there's no real personality in the levels. Uh, and there's not really too much to say more on that because, like I said, I did not get too far. Like this game was so bad that I noped out pretty quick. Uh, Wolver, I mean, like I said, the one positive this game does have going for it is that it did feel like it was a Wolverine game. The Spider-Man Return of the Sinister Six, I did not feel like I was playing a Spider-Man game, but this one did feel like a Wolverine game. I was using the claws, I was jumping. The jumping was bad. I looked, but it's just still it was decent. So I'm gonna put Wolverine right above Spider-Man, and that's so that brings the ranking to now. It's Spider-Man: Return of the Sinister Six, Wolverine, Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong 3, and then Captain America and the Avengers, Castlevania 2, and then okay, let's try this again. This is part 3 now. Uh, okay, we were talking about we ranked Wolverine before the break. And now the last game we're going to talk about today is Silver Surfer game. And I would say that this is probably the game that I was the least excited for because, Silver Surfer just isn't a character that I'm that familiar with. Uh, but this is the one game that we're talking about that I actually played all the way through. And do not get me wrong. I cheated because you can save states can only get you so far. This is a very hard game. This is very hard. Uh, I honestly do not. I don't understand how anybody can get through this game fairly. If you do, you're a gaming god. Props to you. But basically, you are the Silver Surfer, and Galactus is like, "Yo, I've got to send you to get these parts of this machine, right?" And you kind of like Mega Man is the best way I could describe it. It's a lot like Mega Man, where you can pick any of the stages to go through in any order, and basically every one of those 5 stages that you start out with, there are 3 levels in each stage, and you're either doing like a side scrolling kind of thing, or it's like a top down kind of view, and you're going left to right. Well, side to side instead of left to right, I guess you'd say, if that makes sense. Uh, but yeah, it's just to shoot 'em up, and you're going through these levels. And I will say that maybe he wasn't that big of a deal, back then. But you've got these just 4 Marvel villains I've never heard of really. There's one that's called the Reptile. There's one I couldn't even tell you that ones. But then there's just randomly Mephisto. So you've got one cool villain, and then you've got these 4 other ones that aren't that cool. And after you get through with all that, you get through all the shoot 'em ups. This I would have never gotten to see this if it wasn't for cheat codes. But you get through the 5, and then there's a bonus stage that you have to do, and then you get to the end of this game, and it kind of just ends. It sets up that there's another level, so maybe there is, but it just kind of ends. There's not really a thing. There's not really a definitive like, okay, this story wrapped itself up nicely. It's just it feels like there's another level, and then there just isn't one. So that being said, the Silver Surfer isn't a bad game by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not a masterpiece, but it is fun for what it is. And I do recommend that if you can use cheat codes to experience the entire game, I would definitely would recommend that. And you don't even have to do like egregious cheat codes where you have infinite life or something, but you could just turn on infinite lives and just go about it that way. And that's what I would recommend because I do think this game is worth experiencing, and that is why I'm putting this game above Castlevania 2. So the list now is going to be Spider-Man: Return of the Sinister Six. I really sounded that out. Oh, excuse me. Wolverine, and then you got Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong 3, Captain America and the Avengers, Castlevania 2, Silver Surfer, and then Castlevania 1. So that's it for this retro review episode. I'm sorry it's kind of a piecemeal like it was. But yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and announce some of the things that are coming just in case, just in case this episode comes out when it's supposed to. Because, anything can happen. I could have a surprise episode come through and then, it gets put before this one. But at some point, I'm going to have Emily and I just finished Star Wars Jedi Survivor, so I definitely want to have an episode where I talk about that game. Diablo 4 is coming out, and I'm actually in the process of coming up with a review crew for that one. So we can have a fun podcast that way. I've been playing a lot of Tears of the Kingdom, and I don't know how far away I am from being finished with that one, but that is another review episode that is in the works. What else do we have here? Pokemon Scarlet. I don't think that's going to be something that comes out. I just don't think I know of anybody else to play that game besides me. But there is going to be an episode. I think it's going to come out a week after I record this, where Leo and I are supposed to. We went in with every intention of reviewing Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 3 Remake and ranking those games. But we just didn't. And we talked about Pokemon and we talked about Zelda and stuff like that. So it might be in that episode. You'll hear what I think about Pokemon Scarlet. But by the time I get back to Pokemon Scarlet at this point, I'm going to have to really think about what I did in that game. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to talk about. I think that's all. I think that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. Thank you guys for watching. Listening, I should say. And if you want to go ahead and play along with what we're doing in this, like I said earlier, the next episode we're going to talk about Alien 3 on the NES. We're going to talk about Zelda 2 on the NES. We're going to talk about Alien 3 again on the NES. Kong 8th. I think it's King Kong Eighth Wonder on the GBA. And then we've got Ultima Awakening on the NES. And then we've got Shadowrun on the Genesis. Those are all games that we're going to cover in the next episode. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys for listening.